Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israeli security forces prevent a terror attack in the West Bank. The U.S. adopts an Israeli tactic to strike the Islamic State, and you won't believe how some Israeli zoo animals are celebrating Passover. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. Two Palestinian terrorists attempted to stab Israeli border policemen in the West Bank this morning, but security forces managed to shoot them down before the soldiers were hurt. The incident took place at the Kalandia checkpoint just north of Jerusalem. A Palestinian woman and a young man apparently charged border policemen with a knife. The woman allegedly threw the knife directly at an officer, but he was unharmed. Security guards quickly responded by shooting and killing both assailants. Afterwards, a butcher's knife and a Leatherman-style multi-tool were also recovered from the man's belt. The female assailant was identified as 23-year-old Maram Salih Hassan, but the male terrorist's ID card was not found at the scene. Both are allegedly residents of a village in the central West Bank. Tensions are high on the Temple Mount as Jews continue to visit the site during Passover. Yesterday, Israeli security forces brawled with Muslim worshippers outside of the holy site, who were infuriated with the presence of Jewish visitors. The skirmish began after police removed Jewish worshippers who violated visitation rules at the Temple Mount. Two Jewish men entered the site and bowed down to pray. Their actions violated the rules on the holy site and they were escorted away by Israeli police. The incident sparked anger among Muslim worshippers at the site, who then began to brawl with Israeli police, although no one was reported injured. During the clash, Muslim worshippers were heard shouting phrases such as "God is great" and "With blood we will redeem Al-Aqsa," in reference to the mosque that sits on the Temple Mount. Tensions are high at the volatile site due to the last 6 months of violence in Israel. Palestinian attacks have killed 28 Israelis and at least 2 visiting U.S. citizens, and the majority of the violence has taken place in the West Bank. In a separate incident yesterday, Israeli security forces clashed with 20 Palestinian demonstrators near a West Bank checkpoint. The protesters were demonstrating against the detention of Palestinian journalist Omar Nazal.
استمرار اعتقال الزميل عمر نزال عضو الأمانة العامة لنقابة الصحفيين وللمطالبة بالإفراج الفوري عنه والتنديد باستمرار اعتقاله من قبل سلطات الاحتلال الذي تم اعتقاله أثناء توجهه في وفد من نقابة الصحفيين للمشاركة بمؤتمر الاتحاد الأوروبي للصحفيين.
The IDF says the military was not involved in Nazal's detention or the dispersal of the demonstrators calling for his release. Thousands of Israeli security forces have been deployed across Israel to maintain calm during Passover, especially in the West Bank and Jerusalem. An Israeli birdwatcher discovered a lot more than just some special birds on a hike this week. The young man accidentally came across an ancient Egyptian seal near the coast of Haifa, and it's reportedly 3,700 years old. Alexander Ternopolsky was birdwatching near the Tel Dor archaeological site on Israel's Carmel coast when he found the ancient scarab seal. It's thought that the seal belonged to an Egyptian official, dating back as far as the 18th century BC. Researchers are still working to translate the official's name from the seal, but hieroglyphics on the object reveal that he was in charge of the treasury. Archaeologists say the seal is similar to what Joseph would have worn while serving in the pharaoh's kingdom. It was found at the coastal city of Dor, which was a key port city for thousands of years and was even mentioned in several ancient Egyptian documents that are over 3,000 years old. 20 years ago, one mother's worst nightmare came true. Susie Dvoskin's 21-year-old daughter Tamara was killed in a hit-and-run car accident while she was riding her bicycle to train for a triathlon. Since the tragic accident, Tamara's family has established a women's-only triathlon in Israel to honor her memory. Susie is here in the studio with us to tell us more. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Natasha.
Hello. I want to obviously hear a little bit more about Tamar, kind of before we go into this triathlon that you've created. What happened on this tragic day? Can you tell us?
Tamar had just come home from volunteering in a Jewish day camp in Russia and in Moscow and Kiev, and was training for a triathlon that was going to be taking place in Tel Aviv. And she chose to cycle on the Ayalon, and her boyfriend and her older brother said, "Don't do that." And she said, "It'll be okay." And it wasn't. Hit and run. We were able to donate her organs. Both of our sons and her boyfriend agreed. And so we were able to give 8 people another chance at life. But I want to correct something, a mistake that almost everybody makes. Tamar and I did the first 2 women's triathlons together.
Wow, okay.
And when Tamar was killed, the director at that time turned to us and asked if we'd like the women's triathlon to be in her memory. And we immediately agreed. We had 2 months. It was already planned. And then we said that after the 3rd women's triathlon, in which a lot of her friends participated, we took it over. And in the first women's triathlon that Tamar and I did, we were given as a gift this ability to try something new. I was 47 at the time. Tamar was 19. And when we crossed the finish line, that's when the motto was born, "Every woman a winner," because it didn't matter how much experience we had or what place we came in or how long it took us, and I was really slow. Every single person who got to the start line was already a winner because we dared to try something new.
Absolutely. And I mean, now you guys have made this, an opportunity that so many women around the country can have. You have created this, well, you haven't created it, you said that, but you have
Right.
now led
We've
this women's
developed
triathlon in Tamar's memory. Can you tell us more about that?
The first women's triathlon, there were 53 girls and women. The second went down to 35. With Tamar's friends, we were 47. When we moved it to Ra'anana, and we moved it to the springtime, the end of May, because it's Tamar's birthday then. So this is actually a big birthday party for her. There were 80. And then last year, we had 1,300 women.
Wow, that's a huge amount.
From, again, 8 to 80, participating. When Tamar and I did the first women's triathlon, there was one distance, short distance, doable for first-time people. We now have 4 distances. Girls from the age 8 to 13 can do a girl's length, which is 200 meters swimming, 4 kilometers biking, and 1 kilometer of running. They can do it by themselves or with friends. We have a short sprint, a regular sprint, and even an Olympic length triathlon, which is 1,500 meters of swimming, 40 kilometers of biking, and 10K run. And any one of those can be done alone or with friends.
So
this time, and what's so important for us is keeping Tamar in the middle of everything. In every woman's bag, we put a bag of dates because date in Hebrew is Tamar.
I wanted to ask you about this tree here.
Yeah, this tree is a date palm.
Right.
And this is our trophy. And on the medal that every woman gets when they cross the finish line, there's not only our swim, bike, run, which you can see on my shirt,
Right.
but a date palm. Because every single woman who participates has a bit of Tamar in her. And so this is not only in Tamar's memory, it's everybody who participates. Thousands and thousands of women who've done it are able to be empowered in their lives through sport the way Tamar was.
So yeah, and just to clarify, a date in Hebrew is Tamar, which Tamar's name. So, why is a special triathlon only for women?
Sport, up until 50 years ago, was exclusively for men. Women who tried to do a marathon were not allowed to even register. And this is reverse discrimination. By having it only be for women, we're giving a protected, warm, comforting, enveloping environment where any woman, no matter what her size, no matter what she looks like, her age, or no matter what her experience, is the center of attention. Men in most sports are faster than we are, and their testosterone would just knock us down sometimes. And so it's an event. More than a competition, it's an event. And by being an opening way for women to come into triathlon, we give them the courage, the confidence that they are able to do sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for our viewers interested in enrolling, how can they sign up for a triathlon?
You go into the website, and I hope that the URL is listed.
Okay.
Or
What
you
is the
would go
website?
into, it's womens-try.com.
Okay, great.
But you can go into Google and put in Israeli Women's Triathlon, and that's the only one that comes up. We even have some people from Europe and maybe even from Nigeria participating with us this year. So it's an international women's triathlon.
Right, well, it
But
sounds
you go
amazing
into
what you
that.
guys have
There's a part. There's an English part of the website. You go into the British flag, and go into the registration, and it will tell you how to register. And anybody that needs help, my phone number is there. Please call me.
Absolutely.
I'd like to invite you.
Well, you know what? I think I would love to come, so we will definitely talk about this
Okay.
afterwards, because
Great,
it would be
Natasha.
great. Again, thank you so much for coming in and telling your story. Looks like you guys are really doing a great thing in honor
And
of
I'd
Tamar.
like to thank the city of Herzliya. When Yael German was mayor, she brought us in, and we want to thank her. We want to thank Schwung, which has helped us organize the triathlon in the last couple of years, and to all of our friends who not only participate but volunteer with us all year round. It's a great project.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
The U.S. military has started using an Israeli army tactic all in an effort to warn civilians before it bombs Islamic State fighters in Iraq. In early April, the United States attacked Islamic State fighters in the Iraqi city of Mosul and used the Israeli roof-knocking technique right before the attack. The tactic involves firing a warning missile above or near an intended target to give residents the time to flee before the real strike. The IDF used the technique frequently in the 2014 Gaza war, although the UN has criticized it as an ineffective way of avoiding harming civilians. U.S. Air Force Major Peter Gershton says that although the U.S. did not coordinate with Israel before adopting the tactic, the IDF technique was closely observed and studied before the American attack on the Islamic State. A woman reportedly did leave the targeted building after the warning strike, but returned inside the structure before the real attack and was killed. Nonetheless, the U.S. intends to continue using the technique in the future, especially since the air campaign against Islamic State militants in Iraq and Syria has been a key part of the U.S. plan to destroy the group. It's Passover, which means lots of Jews around the world are giving up leavened food for the holiday, which is otherwise known as chametz in Hebrew. As you can imagine, when the Jews were leaving Egypt, they were in a pretty big hurry and they didn't have the time to let their bread rise. Since then, Jews around the world have observed Passover by giving up on tasty food like bread, cereal, cake, or pasta. But apparently you don't have to be Jewish to take part in the tradition. The animals at a special zoo in central Israel are also keeping kosher, and I decided to head over to see how they're keeping up with the holiday spirit. For many Jews, Passover is a time to commemorate the struggles of the Jewish people in Egypt. Yet it turns out the Jewish people aren't the only ones giving up chametz. The animals at the Zoological Center of Tel Aviv and Ramat Gan are taking part in the annual tradition.
We have a lot of people who are employees here that keep kosher, and we have a lot of people that come and visit us at Passover that keep kosher. So we make sure that even the animals, even though they don't have to keep kosher, they don't really are aware of anything, but because we have keepers here and visitors that keep kosher, we like to make sure that there's no chametz around the zoo.
The Zoological Center of Tel Aviv and Ramat Gan is over 250 acres, and it has the largest collection of animals in the Middle East. With around 1,600 different species, you can imagine a lot of grain and bread are being replaced during Passover. Luckily, the animals don't seem to mind the matzah. Zookeepers say the apes and the elephants are aware of the change in their diet when Passover comes around, and that they even love the matzah. After all, there's nothing like a new snack to spice things up. I just had to go ask one of the zoo animals how he was feeling about the new change in his diet. But as you can guess, he didn't have much to say. So, Giraffe, what's it been like for Passover? Are you enjoying yourself? Can't tell if that's a yes or a no. I had to know if the chimpanzees like matzah, so I came over here to check it out. So what are you doing with this matzah in your hands?
I'm gonna throw this to the chimpanzees exhibit. They eat everything almost. So this is not just their food, their lunch or anything. This is just, we're gonna throw this to see if everybody is behaving okay.
Wow. Can I try throwing one?
Yes, of course. Go
Okay,
ahead.
look.
Like
Let's
a
see.
frisbee.
Whee. It turns out most of the people visiting the Ramat Gan safari had no idea their new furry friends were abstaining from leaven, even though some appreciated it.
No, I didn't know it. Good to know. I had no idea. Did you have an idea that they're not eating chametz, Jonathan? No.
They join us. to the Pesach.
There was a very religious man here that asked me if we give the chimpanzees or the animals anything that's not kosher. And I said, no, of course not. We keep kosher here. We give them matzahs every morning. And he was like, oh God, thank you. Yes, very good, very good. Keep on the good work. So it was very funny for me.
This is Natasha Kirchuk reporting for ILTV. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Passover is coming to an end, and we hope that you had a good holiday. So today's word is tikva, which means hope in Hebrew. The story of the Jewish people breaking free from Egypt has given generations of people tikva about their own future. The national anthem of Israel is even called Atikva, or the hope, which makes sense since it is tikva that has given the Jewish people the ability to survive. Most Israelis will tell you that tikva is a foundation to success, because after all, without hope, there would be no Israel. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. It's finally the end of the work week for Israelis celebrating Passover. Thursday is expected to be partly cloudy with a high of 74 degrees. The pleasant weather should continue into Friday, and the temperature will go up to 75. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.76 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.